Hey everybody, welcome back to NYY Recaps. I just wanted to follow up with some fresh thoughts on the Francisco Lindor and DJ LeMahieu situations. In my podcast the other day, I mentioned and I took the stance that Francisco Lindor, even though he's available, would probably not be a Yankee because it's going to cost you a lot to trade for him. And then you're also going to have to re-sign him eventually. But he does have at least 1 year under team control. He's probably going to make $21-22 million this year. And I didn't consider the luxury tax. The Yankees could take that on and find a way to stay under the luxury tax. But you'd have to give up DJ LeMahieu. Now, DJ LeMahieu has been one of the Yankees' best players over the past few years. He's been a tremendous asset to the Yankees since he came over from Colorado. He hits for a high average. He plays great defense. He's a good clubhouse guy. The fans love him. He is clutch. You know, he had that big home run against the Astros in Game 6 a couple of years ago. So DJ LeMahieu is a guy that Yankees fans are not going to want to say goodbye to. Now, he is about to be 32 years old. He's probably going to want a 4 to 6 year contract at probably 23 to 25 million, just based on the type of numbers that he's put up. Now, if the Yankees are serious about saving money this year, it might be a good way to go ahead and get Francisco Lindor. Now, let me explain. At shortstop, the Yankees have Gleyber Torres, and I know a lot of you who followed the team closely are familiar with the fact that Gleyber Torres came up really as a second baseman. He was a shortstop in the minor leagues, but he went to second base when the Yankees called him up. He's a very good second baseman. But he showed last year, even in a shortened season, that he's really not much of a shortstop. He kind of is slow to release the ball sometimes. He struggles with the accuracy of his throws. He can get kind of lackadaisical on defense at times. Now, don't get me wrong. I think he's a phenomenal offensive player. He didn't have a great offensive season, but it was a short sample size. I think he's going to get back to form next year offensively, especially if you take some of the pressure off of him on defense. And one way you could do that is by shifting him back to second base. Now, I know it's hard to say goodbye to DJ LeMahieu because, as I mentioned, he's been fantastic, but the Yankees do have the pieces to go out and get a Francisco Lindor. You may have to trade a Clark Schmidt. You may have to do it. You may have to trade Miguel Andujar. You may have to trade somebody like Clint Frazier. I know the Yankees don't want to do that, but there's no better time to trade somebody than early on in the offseason because then you still have options for guys that you can go out and acquire via trade or via free agency. And it doesn't look like this is a year where a lot of different teams are going to be spending money just because of the impact from COVID. So the Yankees might have the upper hand by throwing an extra couple of million at somebody to fill a hole if they need to move somebody like a Frazier. You can maybe go out and get somebody like a Brantley, add more left-handed hitting to your lineup. That's an option, and you can get him on a short contract because I believe he's going to be 37 years old. Now, I'm not advocating for that, but my opinion has changed somewhat on the Francisco Lindor thing because I think it may be a possibility. It may be something the Yankees will consider. I'm sure they're going to consider all options, but it may be something that they seriously consider. Really depends on what the Indians are going to ask for. And Michael Kay had a really good point on his radio show the other day. The Indians aren't moving Francisco Lindor as part of a rebuild or anything like that. They're moving him because they can't afford to pay him. And that creates a bit more of a sense of urgency to get him off the roster. Move him quickly. The Yankees do have an advantage because they have a lot of financial might. Even though they lost a lot of money this year, they're still the most valuable organization in all of sports. Close second would be the Dodgers. But the Yankees are very, very wealthy. And they can afford to take on that contract and still stay under the luxury tax this year. Now, Francisco Lindor is due arbitration, and based on what you look at in the past, what guys get around this time based on their skill level, based on the position that he plays, he's going to get a raise. He's probably going to make $21-22 million. That would be my estimate. DJ LeMahieu is going to ask for a starting point of $22-23 million, and he's going to want 3 to 4 years. And he's 32 years old. He's a great player. He's a great second baseman. He's clutch. He hits for contact. But really, as hard as it might be, you might be able to let him go and still get somebody who's an impact player. And look, Francisco Lindor is a guy who brings a lot of energy to the team. He's a switch hitter, so you get that benefit of the left side at Yankee Stadium. That'll probably add a bit more power to his home run totals. And then if they bring in a lefty, he can switch around to the right side. He plays every day. He's played over 150 games several times, played in all 60 games this year. I think it was 143 games in 2019. So he's going to take the field for you, which is something the Yankees have had problems with. And he brings a lot of energy. He's kind of got that Didi Gregorius type energy to him. Now, Didi Gregorius, it's a bit of a stretch because he's a really unique character, but that same type of fun-loving, exciting type of player. And Francisco Lindor has done well in the postseason. He's got about 115 postseason at-bats, I believe. I think he has 5 home runs. He didn't have a great postseason this year, but look, a lot of guys didn't have a great year or a great postseason this year. It happens. It was an odd year, and not everybody adjusted well. But I really think that, the more I've thought about this and the longer I've gone into this rabbit hole, looking at the different contracts, looking at the different statistics and the different splits, and looking at how guys age, really, and their numbers from ages 32 through 36, 37 in the post-steroid era, look, I really think it might be a better move to just let DJ LeMahieu go, as hard as that will be for us fans, if you're able to secure the services of a guy like Francisco Lindor. Imagine that lineup of having Francisco Lindor hit in between Judge and Stanton or Voit. I mean, you got that switch hitter, so you can't bring in one righty to face all 3 of them. He's going to add some protection. He can do things on the bases. He's a great defensive player. He's going to help out other guys defensively. And that turns your infield into, at least, 3 decent infielders, right? At first base, Luke Voit is not a great defensive player. But Gleyber Torres, when you shift him out of the shortstop and put him onto second base, he's a much better second baseman than he is a shortstop. And then, obviously, Lindor is a Gold Glove caliber shortstop. And then Gio Urshela, even though he didn't win this year, is really a Gold Glove caliber third baseman. So you're improving in a number of areas by adding Lindor. What will it cost to trade for him? I don't know. It's probably going to cost you a Clark Schmidt. It might cost you a Davy Garcia, one of those 2 guys. I don't think the Yankees would give up a guy like a Jason Dominguez, but they might be able to throw in a guy like a Florial, somebody like that. Maybe even a Mike Tauchman, who's a major league ready outfielder, even though he's from the left side, doesn't have a lot of power. Cleveland could use somebody like that, a decent player at a controllable cost. So, keep your eye on this. This could be something that surprises us.
If you enjoyed this video, please like and subscribe. It helps YouTube suggest this channel to other Yankees fans.